Laverne Shirley entertained audiences from 1976 to 1983 with its hilarious antics, unforgettable friendship, and charming depiction of life in Milwaukee. Behind the laughter and memorable moments, tragedy touched some of the show's beloved actors, cutting short the lives of those who brought these iconic roles to life. From rising stars to seasoned performers, their untimely passings left fans heartbroken and reminded us that real life can be as unpredictable as any sitcom plot. In this video, we honor the Laverne Shirley cast members who have tragically died, celebrating their careers, remembering their legacy, and exploring the lasting impact they made on television history and pop culture. Penny Marshall was 33 when she took on the role of Laverne DeFazio in 1976, a brash, streetwise brewery worker whose sarcastic humor and relentless optimism masked a tender heart. Laverne's on-screen persona, with her trademark L sweaters, love of Pepsi, and unflappable determination, endeared her to millions, yet behind the laughter lay a woman who carried scars from a turbulent life. Born October 15, 1943, in the Bronx, New York City, she grew up in a chaotic household where her mother's volatile temper and her brother Gary Marshall's meteoric early success left her struggling for attention and validation. Childhood experiences of teasing, poverty, and emotional neglect honed her resilience but also seeded a lifelong self-doubt she masked with humor and bravado. Her early career was a battlefield of near misses, rejected auditions, and Hollywood sexism that tested her persistence. She battled depression and the pressures of balancing personal life with a rising career. A pivotal transformation occurred when she shifted from acting to directing, breaking gender barriers in Hollywood with Big in 1988 and A League of Their Own, though colleagues recounted her perfectionism often caused tense on-set conflicts and emotional burnout. Her personal life was marked by 2 divorces, struggles with health including diabetes and cancer, and occasional professional envy and public scrutiny. Despite these hardships, she remained a trailblazer for women in film. Marshall died December 17, 2018, at 75 from heart failure related to cardiovascular disease and diabetes, leaving a net worth estimated at $45 million in assets including royalties, film rights, and real estate. Her cultural legacy is monumental. She redefined women's roles behind the camera, while her complex personal journey revealed the human vulnerabilities behind a public persona of wit, toughness, and boundless charm. Cindy Williams was 29 when she began portraying Shirley Feeney in 1976, the sweet, romantic, and occasionally neurotic counterpart to Laverne, whose innocence and charm offered audiences a grounding foil to her friend's rougher humor. Shirley's character, constantly caught in awkward or comic situations, mirrored Williams' own layered reality, a woman balancing ambition, personal vulnerability, and the pressures of Hollywood. Born August 22, 1947, in Van Nuys, California, she grew up in a modest, working-class family where economic constraints, parental absence, and early shyness instilled both insecurity and a fierce drive to succeed. Her professional path was marked by early critical acclaim in films such as American Graffiti, but she faced setbacks including her contentious departure from the final season of Laverne Shirley after disagreements with Penny Marshall, a decision that caused professional and personal strain. Williams endured a series of personal crises, a turbulent marriage to musician Bill Hudson, publicized breakups, and years of managing career uncertainties while navigating the demands of single parenthood. The death of close family members and the loss of her mother left deep emotional scars, prompting periods of withdrawal from the public eye. Despite these trials, she pursued theater and television work, occasionally returning to the screen while advocating for creative control and respect for actors. Williams passed away January 25, 2023, in Los Angeles at age 75 after a brief illness, leaving an estate valued at $10 million encompassing real estate, royalties, and investments. Her enduring legacy blends the warmth and relatability of Shirley Feeney with a narrative of resilience, a woman who survived the emotional turbulence of fame, family loss, and professional disputes while leaving a lasting mark on television comedy and American pop culture. David L. Lander was 29 when he debuted as Andrew Squiggy Squigman in 1976, the quirky, nasally voiced sidekick whose awkward energy and comic timing became emblematic of the show's eccentric humor. Squiggy's exaggerated entrances, catchphrases, and loyalty to his on-screen partner Lenny made him a cult favorite, yet Lander's off-screen existence revealed a complex struggle with health, identity, and professional validation. Born June 22, 1947, in Brooklyn, New York, to a Jewish working-class family, he experienced a childhood of teasing, social anxiety, and early awareness of his differences, which both fueled his creativity and heightened his sense of isolation. His career faced turbulence despite early acclaim. Following Laverne and Shirley, he contended with typecasting, sporadic work, and the devastating personal blow of a multiple sclerosis diagnosis in 1984, which he kept hidden for years to maintain his career. The disease progressively undermined his mobility and stamina, complicating his ability to perform and creating ongoing emotional strain. Lander coped through adaptation. He developed a prolific voice acting career, authored books, engaged in public advocacy for MS, and found purpose mentoring others, demonstrating resilience even amid physical decline. He faced private challenges, including estrangement from some family members, financial concerns tied to medical costs, and periods of depression, yet maintained humor as a protective mechanism. Lander died December 4, 2020, in Los Angeles at 73 from complications of multiple sclerosis. At his passing, his estate was valued at roughly $1.5 million, including property, royalties, and intellectual property from his work on television and voice projects. Beyond material assets, his enduring cultural imprint lies in transforming Squiggy into a symbol of joyful absurdity, proving that creativity, charm, and human resilience can endure even in the shadow of chronic illness and professional setbacks. Eddie Mecca was 24 when he assumed the role of Carmine the Big Ragu Ragusa in 1976, the exuberant, Brooklyn-born, aspiring performer who danced, sang, and wooed Shirley with relentless charm in Laverne and Shirley. On screen, he was the embodiment of boundless energy, romantic naivete, and comic timing, captivating audiences with both slapstick antics and sincere vulnerability. Behind the camera, his life was far from the cheerful persona he projected. Born June 14, 1952, in Worcester, Massachusetts, to working-class Italian-American parents, Mecca endured a childhood marked by economic hardship and emotional neglect. His father was domineering and volatile, often demeaning his ambitions in the performing arts, while his mother struggled with her own mental health issues, leaving young Eddie to navigate isolation and self-doubt. His early attempts at musical theater were plagued with rejections and underpayment, fostering a lifelong insecurity masked by onstage exuberance. His career, though highlighted by Broadway success and television fame, was punctuated by financial instability, periods of unemployment, and personal missteps, including impulsive relationships and rumored struggles with alcohol. A particularly devastating turning point occurred when a major Broadway production he had starred in collapsed, leaving him in debt and publicly humiliated, triggering a spiral of depression and self-reproach that haunted him for years. Despite these setbacks, Mecca demonstrated resilience, returning to stage tours and guest appearances, often channeling his personal pain into comedic timing and emotional depth, though chronic health issues in later years compounded his private struggles. On November 27, 2021, he died in Newhall, California, at the age of 69, leaving behind an estate valued at approximately $500,000, consisting of residuals, modest real estate, and personal memorabilia. His legacy is a mixture of professional triumphs and personal hardship, a reminder that the bright, effervescent characters he played concealed a man who had fought ceaselessly against economic, emotional, and physical adversity throughout his life, leaving an indelible imprint on American television comedy while his private battles remained largely untold. Phil Foster was 63 when he began portraying Frank DeFazio in 1976, the gruff, loud, and fiercely protective father of Laverne, whose Brooklyn authenticity and comic timing grounded Laverne and Shirley in working-class reality. Audiences loved his warmth and booming personality, but Foster's personal history was riddled with struggle, resilience, and unspoken grief. Born March 29, 1913, in Brooklyn, New York, to Jewish immigrant parents from Eastern Europe, he grew up in poverty, facing anti-Semitism and the constant threat of eviction in a neighborhood rife with economic instability. Childhood trauma, including the death of siblings and a father prone to violence and heavy drinking, shaped his humor and resilience, driving him to the stage as a form of escape and self-expression. Though he found success in stand-up comedy and eventually in television, his professional life was not without scandal. His career was marked by clashes with producers over creative control, episodes of heavy drinking, and gambling that occasionally endangered both his reputation and financial stability. A critical low came with a failed nightclub venture in the 1950s, which led to public humiliation and bankruptcy, straining his familial relationships and leaving him estranged from his children for periods. Despite these personal setbacks, he remained a beloved figure on screen, often channeling his lived experience of hardship into his performances, giving Frank DeFazio a depth that resonated with viewers. Foster's final years were shadowed by declining health, yet he continued performing until shortly before his death from a heart attack on July 8, 1985, in Rancho Mirage, California, leaving an estate valued at under $1 million. His legacy is a complex tapestry, a man who transformed personal suffering and social marginalization into enduring comedic artistry, whose work reflected the toughness, pathos, and humor of immigrant Brooklyn while his offstage struggles remained largely hidden from public view. Betty Garrett joined Laverne Shirley in 1976 at the age of 57, playing Edna Babish, the vivacious, flirtatious landlady who ultimately married Frank DeFazio, bringing warmth, comic sensibility, and resilience to the show's ensemble. Garrett's on-screen charm and sharp timing masked the life that had endured political persecution, blacklisting, and personal loss. Born May 23, 1919, in St. Joseph, Missouri, she was raised in a modest, itinerant household that struggled with financial precarity and frequent relocations, leaving her to develop independence, wit, and a determined work ethic. Early in her career, she found success in Hollywood musicals, only to have her trajectory abruptly derailed during the 1950s Red Scare when her husband, actor Larry Parks, was summoned before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Garrett was blacklisted alongside him, losing roles, facing financial insecurity, and suffering public vilification, creating a prolonged period of emotional and professional trauma. The blacklist left her isolated and forced her to take minor stage roles or teaching positions, yet she persisted, using art as a coping mechanism while mentoring younger performers and cultivating a reputation for resilience. In the 1970s, her return to television marked both a professional and personal reclamation, though years of blacklisting and financial instability left permanent scars on her psyche and marriage. She lived a life of careful privacy, guarding her family and personal affairs from media intrusion, while continuing to perform and engage in advocacy for actors' rights. Garrett died on February 12, 2011, in Los Angeles at 91, leaving a net worth of approximately $2 million, composed of royalties, property, and personal collections. Her legacy encompasses more than her television roles. It is a testament to endurance against political oppression, the reclamation of career after systemic injustice, and a vibrant cultural presence that influenced generations of performers, showing that behind the effervescent Edna was a woman who had survived scandal, societal pressure, and personal loss to emerge as a quietly formidable figure in American entertainment. Lynn Marie Stewart was 30 when she joined Laverne Shirley in 1976, portraying Barbara Tedesco in various supporting roles whose zany, unpredictable energy made her an unforgettable presence in the sitcom's ensemble. Barbara's character was often caught in chaotic situations, delivering rapid-fire comedic timing that left audiences both delighted and captivated by Stewart's ability to turn minor roles into unforgettable moments. Yet behind the effervescent charm and infectious humor of her performances lay a life shaped by persistent hardship and emotional complexity. Born December 14, 1946, in Linwood, California, to a working-class family of modest means, Stewart grew up in an environment of constant instability, Her parents' arguments were a daily backdrop, and financial hardship forced her to take on responsibilities beyond her age. As a child, she endured teasing for her accent, appearance, and quiet eccentricities, learning early to conceal her pain behind humor and mimicry, a coping mechanism that would later define her comedic style. Her career trajectory, while seemingly glamorous, was riddled with challenges. Early auditions rejected her, and her breakthrough with the Groundlings demanded not only skill but the psychological endurance to withstand constant critique and the social dynamics of an all-male improv culture. Stewart never married, a decision partly rooted in the instability she had witnessed in family life and early romances, and she carried private grief over lost friends and the impact of the AIDS epidemic on her artistic circle. The deaths of mentors and peers hit her hard, and she often channeled that grief into performance, developing a stage presence that was equal parts defiance and vulnerability. Despite a life punctuated by illness, cancer would ultimately claim her in her later years. She remained deeply committed to philanthropy, particularly through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, mentoring young performers and fostering opportunities for underprivileged children. When she passed away on February 21, 2025, in Los Angeles at age 78, she left behind an estate estimated around $1 million, comprising residuals, personal property, and some investments. Norman Barthold was 48 when he joined Laverne Shirley in 1976 as Mr. Hildebrand, a recurring role that captured the bureaucratic rigidity and exasperated demeanor of the workplace comedy's world, providing a foil to the carefree antics of the main characters. Mr. Hildebrand's officiousness and slow-burn frustration offered audiences a touchstone for the absurdities of office hierarchy, while Barthold's precise comic timing turned minor irritations into memorable moments. Born August 6, 1928, in Berkeley, California, to a family navigating the lingering effects of the Great Depression, Barthold's childhood was colored by economic instability and cultural displacement. As a first-generation American of Jewish heritage, he endured both overt prejudice and subtle social exclusion. His teenage years were punctuated by family pressures, scarce resources, and the trauma of wartime anxiety, experiences that left him cautious, reserved, and sometimes socially withdrawn. Barthold served in the Korean War, returning with deep psychological scars that he would carry into his professional and personal life, often struggling with self-confidence in moments of acute anxiety in the competitive environment of television and film. Professionally, his path was that of a character actor navigating the precarious balance between consistency and typecasting. Although he appeared in acclaimed films like Westworld and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he was often overlooked for leading roles, and his career experienced periods of professional frustration, including the cancellation of pilots or series after significant personal investment. Private life challenges compounded his stress. A long-term marriage ended in divorce, leaving emotional scars and intermittent estrangement from family, while the stress of navigating Hollywood's politics occasionally led to reliance on alcohol as a coping mechanism. Despite these hardships, Barthold remained dedicated to his craft, mentoring younger actors and embracing supporting roles that allowed him to shine subtly without the burdens of stardom. He died on May 28, 1994, in Rancho Mirage, California, at age 65, leaving an estate valued under $1 million, composed of modest property and residual earnings. Richard Stahl was 44 when he joined Laverne Shirley in 1976, delivering a series of performances as various comedic clerks, office workers, and bureaucrats whose oddball quirks and precise timing brought life and texture to the sitcom's recurring world. Stahl's characters often appeared nervous, excitable, or absurdly competent in inappropriate ways, cementing him as a go-to actor for nuanced comedic relief. But behind the humor lay a life marked by instability, personal struggles, and unrelenting determination. Born January 4, 1932, in Detroit, Michigan, Stahl grew up in a working-class household where financial insecurity and family tension were constants, and he often endured teasing from peers for his intellectual inclinations and idiosyncrasies. These early experiences fostered a deep well of resilience but also a tendency to internalize anxiety, which would follow him into his adult life and acting career. His path in Hollywood was characterized by persistence amid frequent rejection. he was repeatedly passed over for major roles and struggled to break out of typecasting, the most significant setback coming when a sitcom pilot designed to showcase his comedic talent was abruptly cancelled after poor test screenings, a professional blow that shook his confidence and threatened his career trajectory. In addition, Stahl faced a protracted battle with Parkinson's disease later in life, a cruel illness that progressively impaired his physical expressiveness, the very tool that had defined his career. He confronted these challenges by pivoting to mentorship and improv work, notably with The Committee, where he cultivated new talent and retained a creative outlet despite his declining health. His personal life was similarly layered. He maintained a stable family environment while quietly grappling with the emotional weight of his condition and the psychological toll of repeated professional disappointments. On June 18, 2006, Stahl died at age 74 in Woodland Hills, California, leaving an estate worth approximately $1 million, composed largely of residuals, property, and savings. Charles Thomas Murphy was 35 when he appeared in Laverne Shirley in 1976 as Dr. Gentry, a seemingly minor character whose dry humor and understated authority added a surprising sophistication to the show's raucous comedy. On screen he was steady, measured, even comforting, but behind the camera his life was shaped by constant turbulence. Born on May 3, 1941, in Scranton, Pennsylvania, to a working-class Irish-American family, Murphy's childhood was marked by poverty, a violent alcoholic father, and a mother who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. He grew up shy, humiliated by hand-me-down clothes and mocked in school for his stutter, a wound that never fully healed. His greatest life-changing moment came in 1982, at the height of his career, when a near-fatal car accident left him with lasting injuries that stripped him of his vitality and robbed him of major roles. The physical pain was only part of the torment. The depression and bitterness that followed almost destroyed him. Murphy tried to reinvent himself, turning to stage directing and mentoring younger actors, but he was never able to escape the shadow of what could have been. The accident fractured his marriage and strained friendships, as his drinking deepened and his temper grew unpredictable, alienating colleagues who once admired his wit. Though he fought to maintain dignity, Hollywood largely turned its back on him, and he survived on sporadic guest roles in community theater, clinging desperately to art as his lifeline. When he died in Hollywood on September 9, 2006, at the age of 65 from natural causes, he left behind little more than a modest estate, valued at under $500,000, consisting of a small house, union pensions, and royalties from old television appearances. His legacy remains bittersweet, a gifted character actor whose promise was cut short, a cautionary tale of how quickly fame and fortune can collapse, leaving behind not glory but the ghost of untapped potential. Byron Webster was 45 when he appeared in Laverne Shirley in 1976 as Mr. Slotnick, the officious, pencil-pushing bureaucrat whose stiff manners and comic absurdity made him both irritating and hilarious in workplace storylines. His character's fussiness masked a deep loneliness, and ironically, that duality mirrored aspects of Webster's own hidden life. Born on June 14, 1931, in London, England, into a middle-class family of modest means, Webster's childhood was overshadowed by the bombing raids of World War II. His father, a civil servant, was emotionally distant, while his mother doted excessively, leaving him with an odd blend of insecurity and entitlement. In Hollywood, he became known as a consummate professional, but privately he lived with the stigma of being an English outsider in American television, constantly battling stereotypes and the industry's reluctance to see him beyond posh supporting roles. His turning point came in the late 1970s when a bitter contract dispute on a theater production left him blacklisted from certain New York stages. Gossip in industry circles hinted at clashes with directors, excessive drinking, and affairs with both men and women that were whispered about but never openly acknowledged in an era when such revelations could destroy a career. His personal tragedies ran deep. He endured a failed marriage that collapsed amid rumors of infidelity, and he remained estranged from siblings in England who disapproved of his lifestyle. By the mid-1980s, he was struggling financially, taking on smaller and smaller roles while his health faltered. His sudden death on December 1, 1991, in Sherman Oaks, California, at age 60, left fans shocked, though insiders knew of his declining condition. At death, his estate was estimated under $1 million, comprising a modest home and scattered investments, but his true wealth lay in the dignity he brought to even the most minor roles. Today, Webster's memory lingers as that of a man who hid private heartbreak behind comic timing, leaving behind a career that, while overlooked, remains beloved by those who saw the craft in his smallest gestures. Helen Page Camp was 46 when she stepped into Laverne & Shirley in 1976 as Mrs. Havenworst, the strict but eccentric landlady whose brief presence shaped the show's early dynamic before being replaced by a softer character. On screen she was sharp and domineering, the kind of woman audiences love to groan at, but off-screen she carried burdens that few ever glimpsed. Born on December 27, 1930, in Washington, D.C., she grew up in a conservative household, where her father's stern military background clashed with her mother's quiet artistic yearnings. Childhood for Camp was stifling. She was disciplined into silence, discouraged from pursuing creativity, and ridiculed in school for her awkward appearance, which left her craving both validation and escape. Her life-changing ordeal came not from scandal but from the endless grind of being a working actress in Hollywood without the protection of stardom. She endured humiliations, roles lost at the last minute, producers who belittled her looks, and auditions where she was treated as invisible. By the mid-1980s, health issues began to creep in, culminating in a stroke that would cut short her life at only 60. Yet Camp never collapsed under these burdens. Instead, she fought quietly, carving out a niche as a respected character actress, her versatility winning her roles in Cheers, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Maude. She never married, and colleagues whispered of an unfulfilled love affair with a married producer that haunted her for decades, though she carried herself with dignity to the end. On August 1, 1991, she died in Los Angeles from a fatal stroke, her estate modest, under $1 million, consisting mainly of residuals, a small apartment, and savings. But Helen Page Camp's legacy rests not in wealth but in her quiet defiance, her ability to turn small roles into unforgettable presences, embodying the unsung resilience of women in Hollywood who fought to be seen and remembered. Her story is less about fame than about perseverance, leaving behind a hidden influence that shaped the tone of countless shows. Greg Antonacci, born February 2, 1947, in New York City, joined Laverne & Shirley in 1976 at age 29 as Hector, a streetwise, energetic, and often mischievous character whose presence amplified the show's comedic ensemble and created memorable moments of chaotic charm. On screen, Hector seemed irrepressible, a man perpetually on the edge of trouble, yet behind the scenes, Antonacci's life was far more complex than the playful facade suggested. Raised in a working-class family of Italian descent in New York, he experienced a childhood shaped by financial instability and social marginalization. He was often mocked for his ethnicity and forced to suppress emotions to survive the harsh realities of urban life. These early experiences cultivated a resilience that would serve him well in Hollywood, though not without cost. Antonacci endured a series of personal tragedies and career challenges, multiple divorces, fleeting romantic entanglements, and the constant pressure of an unpredictable industry. A particularly crushing professional setback occurred when a pilot he co-created and directed was abruptly canceled after network executives deemed it too edgy, leaving him financially strained and questioning his creative choices. Yet he persisted, channeling his frustrations into work behind the camera as a writer, director, and producer on shows like The Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire, where his keen understanding of character dynamics and street-smart humor left an indelible mark. Antonacci also faced ongoing health issues in his later years but remained engaged with acting and directing until his passing. He died on September 20, 2017, in Massapequa, New York, at age 70, leaving a net worth estimated around $1 million, comprised of residuals, intellectual property rights, and personal investments. His legacy is a blend of on-screen energy, creative versatility, and a narrative of perseverance through professional and personal turbulence, a reminder that the laughter Hector provoked belied a life of quiet struggle and relentless ambition. Fred Willard, born September 18, 1933, in Cleveland, Ohio, appeared in Laverne Shirley in 1976 at age 43 as Charles, a well-meaning but oblivious character whose comedic timing and bumbling charm became a signature element of the series. Willard's Charles exuded earnestness, awkward social grace, and gentle stupidity that endeared him to viewers, though his off-screen life contained far more turbulence than audiences realized. Growing up in a working-class Midwestern family, Willard endured an emotionally reserved household where achievement was expected but emotional support was limited, leaving him to develop humor as both armor and identity. Personal and professional incidents punctuated his career. He faced public scrutiny in 2012 when briefly detained for alleged lewd conduct in an adult theater, a controversy that could have derailed his reputation but was resolved without charges, in which he overcame with resilience and continued work in comedy. Professionally, he experienced highs and lows. Despite decades of consistent performance in television, film, and voice acting, he occasionally struggled against typecasting as the bumbling authority figure, and a particularly bitter disappointment came when a much-anticipated film role was reassigned at the last minute due to studio politics, leaving him feeling undervalued. In private, he managed a complex web of relationships and battled health challenges, including coronary artery disease and myelodysplastic syndrome, culminating in his death on May 15, 2020, at age 86 from cardiac arrest. Willard's net worth at the time of his passing was estimated at $5 million, built from decades of television royalties, film residuals, and voice work. Beyond material wealth, his legacy lies in shaping American comedy through his distinct style, timelessly awkward, deeply human, and endlessly relatable, an influence that continues to resonate with audiences while quietly hinting at the personal struggles beneath the laughter. Though time has passed, the laughter they gave us still echoes. The cast of Laverne Shirley brought joy to millions, and even though some of them are no longer with us, their performances live on. As we remember those we've lost, we also celebrate the legacy they left behind, one that continues to entertain and connect generations. Thank you for joining us in honoring these unforgettable stars. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tributes to the legends of television history.